Seriously, Noah? You gonna drive it before I do?
Oh, where's the turtle?
This is the vibrate.
This is the
Yep.
left. This is the turner.
Yep.
And this is the right. This is the red. This is the white.
Yep.
No.
I'm not sure how it's gonna react to. It's probably gonna hit this and flip this up or something. I don't know. Probably gonna,
We shall see.
probably gonna be worse getting off than it was on. I didn't even think about that.
Ain't no gas in it. Okay.
There's a fuel pump around here.
Hey!
Find where it is.
I'm getting real. Today we are gonna get a birthday today.
Yeah, there's no fuel in this fuel pump.
And then
I just got this roller. This is a 2006 Wacker Neuson. It's a hydrostatic drive, so both drums drive, which is the only reason I bought it, because those ones with the chain on them, they only have rear wheel drive or rear drum drive, and this is articulating too. So that's really the only reason I bought it, because the older ones I'm not really interested in. I really didn't want one that was gas, but the price was right. It was $3,500 for it. It needs a bunch of things on it. I could use it as it is right now, but there's a few things that I need to address. The biggest thing is there's a hydraulic leak right here. I guess the guy said it started leaking like just today or yesterday or something, and he just put a hose clamp around it, but it started leaking again. So we got to fix that the right way. There's a hard line that goes from a hose that's right there to this drive motor right here. So we either got to put another hose in or get a steel line made up. And there's a few electrical things with it. He replaced the engine, but it's not exactly the same engine, so the throttle doesn't work. And the ignition stuff and the fuel pump stuff doesn't work, so we just have some switches here that we got to turn on to start it. So we got to figure out the wiring for all that. There's random wires that aren't going anywhere, so we got to figure out a few different things with that. Overall though, it runs, it functions, and it needs a hood, which I'm going to fabricate out of steel. We got to make some way to hold this battery, because it's just resting on the hoses right now, which may have been why that hose broke or cracked or whatever it did. I really don't have time to work on a machine like this right now, but at the same time, this machine would make my job a lot easier pouring the slab over there. So rather than running a plate compactor, one good thing is the next 2 days is supposed to rain, so I could put this in the garage and I could be working on this while I can't do anything else. So that's kind of the reason I bought it, because I can get it fixed while I'm not really losing time to fix it. So I just need to pull it in there. We'll get most of this stuff fixed up, and then hopefully I can get it back in time for the good weather and we can use it. It's a flat face seal. Well, I was going to try to weld that back together. I thought it was maybe just a pinhole, but it looks to be a little bit more than that. So I guess I got to get a new hose or another steel line, preferably another steel line. I also found out that they were running it with no air filter, so that's not great, but I guess it doesn't have a knock and it doesn't smoke a lot, so should be alright, but I'm not going to run it without a filter. Of course, I can't find one locally. The only thing I can find is the circular one, and I'll have to make a plate for the top, and then I'll order the right one online, which comes with the plate. So I suppose I should do something with this mess here. This is the starter, actually, and it's just a switch, and it doesn't spring back. So I want to put a push button starter on that. And then this is for the fuel pump, and then this is for the ignition here. And it's kind of confusing the way it is. Plus it's a little bit out of your reach when you're on the seat here. It's supposed to be here. There's supposed to be a key right there. And this is for the vibrator. I think that's for the lights, and that should be the throttle. So what I'd like to do is rewire this stuff to go up and around and to here. At least for that stuff. The throttle, we'll see if we can get that up here. I don't know. We also need a choke too, and I don't see a spot over there for a choke. This isn't the original engine in it. This is a Honda 690, I believe. I'm not sure because there's no labels on it. And it was supposed to have another one that was similar to that. But maybe the other one had an auto choke. I don't know. But there's no choke position on here. Although there is this here. Maybe that's... I guess that could be a choke. Maybe it was. So if I can get the right cables to go up to here, then I'll do that. But if not, I'm not going to worry about it. The other engine had the cable assembly on the other side. So if I go to order the original parts for this, that's not going to work. I need to get a cable that's long enough, like a universal one that goes around. The guy I bought this from said one of these switches is for the fuel pump. I think it's this one right here. But I never heard the fuel pump running. Not in the tank. I heard something click around here. I don't know if that's something to do with the fuel pump. Maybe it's a fuel shutoff. Maybe it's some sort of throttle shutoff or something. But underneath here, there appears to be something like a fuel pump or something. I think it looks like a diaphragm type pump, but let's just take that apart and see what it's about. Yeah, that looks to me like it's not anything electronic at all. It just runs off the vacuum on the air intake. But that switch must do something, because when I shut it off, it does shut off the engine. It delays it by like a second or two. This switch, if you turn it off, it instantly shuts off the engine. So one of those switches is for the ignition. I'm assuming this one. I don't know what this one does. I guess I got to read the specs on this engine. So I went to the store and got a bunch of stuff that I think I need. I ended up getting a hose. It was harder than I thought to get a steel line. You know what's unfortunate? To get this hose, it was like 90 something. That was almost $100. And I was looking, after I got this, of course, I was looking online, and I could actually buy the OEM hose that goes in here, or the steel line rather, for like $80. So it was actually cheaper than just going to the store. But the problem was, it was going to be like a week to get it in. So time is money. I don't have a week to wait. And I know this is going to look like crap compared to the actual line that goes in there, but kind of is what it is. Now the other end of this wasn't 90 degrees like this. I think it was more like 70 degrees or something like that. But I think this will still work. I got it a few inches longer so it won't hug the top here at that angle. It'll just kind of come straight out and then straight up. I think it'll work though. I'm going to try to do this stuff based on the order of importance. So the next thing would definitely be this filter here. Now it's going to be the same thing like on that hose. Wasn't exactly able to get what I need. This should fit in there, but there's no metal plate to cover it. And the one that you get, the one that I actually need, has a metal plate with it. I don't even think it's separate. It's all one piece. But again, I had to order that, and I need to use this machine tomorrow, by all means necessary. So I just got this. This should work, and then I'll have to just fabricate something to put on top of it. Today's a rainy day, so if I had to spend 15-20 minutes fabricating some things and making some things work for now, then that's what I got to do. Because tomorrow I need to use this, so no ifs, ands, or buts. Got a piece of pipe, weld the washer on the bottom, cut a piece of probably 16th inch steel, cut a hole out, put this in there, that way this is recessed. just can't wait till all this stuff is sorted out. All that stuff. I just have way too much stuff. Sure, it's not watertight, but it's probably airtight anyways. The only thing is, it doesn't look right. I think it's too high. Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't you figure it's like a half an inch too high. Well, I'm gonna order this filter. So this was like a temporary thing just to get me by for a couple days. It's like $30 for a new one, so it definitely wasn't even worth me doing that. Even though it only took me like 20 minutes, it doesn't fit, so it wasn't worth it. But if it'll get me by for a few days and I can work, then it was worth it. I'll just switch the other filter out later. I was hoping to do this so that I could just buy filters locally instead of having to order them every time, but I guess if I just order like 2 or 3 of them, then I should be good for a while anyways. So I'll order that tonight, but in the meantime, we'll leave that cover off and it'll be fine. Move on to something else. I was going to paint it and everything, but I'm not even bothered with that now. I'm pretty sure this engine is a GX690. I'm not totally sure, but that's what it looks like. And somebody painted over all the model numbers, so that's why I have no idea. There's a serial number, and I suppose I could look it up by that, but I'm pretty sure it's either a 690 or a 630, or it could be even a 610, I think. I don't know, it's one of those. But it's 18 horsepower, I know that. I also was going to make a hood for this, but again, time is money. I don't have time right now. So I ordered one. It was like $600, and it's fiberglass. And I don't care if it's fiberglass or steel, honestly. Whatever it is, it is. I just didn't feel like taking the time to make one. But I'm already seeing that there could possibly be a problem with it because this muffler seems like it's sticking up too high. So we might have to either modify this muffler to stick down lower, or I may have to space that hood up a little bit. Probably spacing the hood up is easier, but I guess we won't know until we get it. That's the problem with that kind of stuff. You got to order it, and you don't know anything until you order it, because all they have is a part number and a generic image. They don't have any dimensions of anything, so we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But again, that's not coming in for a few days. I had to order all kinds of special bolts that they had to mount it on. It's kind of disgusting, honestly, to have to order just the exact same stuff for it. You can't just get universal stuff for it, like just regular nuts and bolts, but whatever. We'll deal with that when it comes in. In the meantime, I can still use it. But I would like to get this throttle situated. I think I'm going to leave the choke for now. That's probably fine. You only hit that once anyways, as soon as you start it. Even if I have to pop the hood open to put the choke on and off, it's a one-time thing, and then after that it should be fine. But the throttle, I want to be able to throttle up and down from up here, not have to reach all the way down here for that. It's kind of almost dangerous too, in case you need to shut it off real quick or something, or slow down. So I thought that this might have been the choke for this, but this looks like somebody mounted this on here, and it actually looks like a universal throttle cable mount, because the one that I got looks exactly like this. So I don't know. I'd like to hook up the old throttle, but I don't think it has the right ends to it. But I guess we won't know that until we try it. You know, I didn't realize that you can actually steer this thing without it being on. It articulates without the pump on. That's kind of crazy, actually. I don't know how that works, but maybe there's... I don't know. I don't know how that works. So here's the old throttle cable. And it does go all the way up, but there's no end on it up here. I don't know how that worked out, but I guess the end broke off. Anyways, I'm going to try to put a new throttle cable on this. We'll see if we can hook it up to this one. If not, we'll have to do the same thing here. Put it on the side. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm losing my patience and I'm just going to do stuff to get by. I wanted to kind of restore it, but it just seems like it's more trouble than it's worth, because getting the right throttle cable for this involves getting a new engine, basically. Because the throttle cable for this is meant for the old engine, which I believe was a 630, and I think this is a 690, and they're just different mounting positions. So there's the old throttle cable position. So that looks suspiciously like it's the same thing. Wouldn't you know it, the new one that I got is all bent up. Alright, so it's the next day here, and I need to use this machine. I gave up on the throttle. What I did is order the original throttle for it. It seems like it's long enough where I can get it around to this side and put it right here where it needs to go, because it only needs to go right here. I thought it was this cable right here, but this is the choke. So we'll leave the choke the way it is, and we'll put a new throttle cable on, and that way I can hook to right here like it's supposed to. Right now I want to change out this ignition switch, and this is the old one, and I just got a matching one that matches the pins. There's 5 pins here, and hopefully that will just plug and play on here. But the problem is they have all these switches hooked up, so I know I'm gonna have to rewire some stuff. I got the schematics here so that I know what wire goes where, but I'm pretty sure that they put all these connectors on here and then put these switches in, so we're probably going to have to disable that, go back to the original wiring, and we'll have to figure out what goes where. Also, another thing that's weird on this, they put the battery inside of here. They also cut this spot out, I don't know why, but the battery goes there, so I relocated it to here. So now I need to take these cables and run them back out to here, and for some reason they're long enough to go over there, so now they're going to be too long for over here, but that's okay. will leave a little loop there, but I'm just wondering why that even is, that they moved that battery, and why it is that the cables are longer than they need to be. I don't know. But in any case, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll just reroute it over here. I don't see any reason to have that underneath the seat if it needs to go here. So I didn't get anything on camera, but I just rewired everything. So now I actually figured out that I can just use like a screwdriver or just an old key. I wired everything up so that that works. And this is a switch that somebody put in there, but they had wires just running right to the battery with no fuse or anything, just straight to the battery, and it looped all around this machine, and that is for the vibrator, or the exciter, I guess they call it. So I rewired that, took a lot of wires out, and now I have it hooked up to where this switch, which I believe was the old light switch, now that controls the vibrator. So that switch was fine, but it was easier just to hook this one up because it already had power going to and from it. And so I just spliced into that. And every connection that I made, I used these shrink solder connections. So it looks like there's still a mess down here, but I'm sure it never really looked super clean down here anyways. But I was able to unhook all three of these switches here. And so that way, instead of that, it's just nice and simple. You can hear something clicking on. I think that's what they call a throttle solenoid. So now that just turns on with this instead of all this mess that was here. Because remember, there was three switches. There was one for the solenoid, there was one for the ignition, and then there was also one for the starter. So now I have everything all on one key, and it's right here, not over here. Because if there's an emergency, having to reach way down here and figure out all these switches is not exactly easy. So these switches do nothing now. I don't know what they ever really did. I think there was just one switch here, and then the other one was a light. And the old way to turn on the vibrator was this button right here, which there's only one wire going out of this, so I didn't even feel like taking this apart because that switch right there is fine. So we're going to use it the way it is. It's already midday right now, and I'm supposed to be using this right now, so I just want to do one more thing before I actually start using it, and that is to put a seat on here, because you don't want to be running a vibrator with no seat on it, because there's no cushion. No, 5, 16 bolts in here. I don't know exactly where the holes are going to go. I'm assuming there's one. I guess the bottom one is the important one because there's only one hole there. So it needs to go. Yeah, let's just look.
Right there. Pinky, pinky.
Oh, there's. Well, let's see. No, it needs to go over.
Gotta go over.
Yeah.
So we gotta go to that one.
Yeah. So we'll just put like 2 threads in, and then let's see if there's one. Okay, yeah, there's one right there. All right.
Okay.
And now, let's see here. Okay.
Good.
That one, yep.
Nice.
All right, I got all 4 of them. I just got to tighten them up.
Sweet. I guess.
Yeah, I don't even know how this opened before. Maybe it didn't have a hinge.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I think it was just 4 bolts, but I think you can see these ones are broken off.
Yeah.
So close. Oh, so close. Hot very quick, doesn't it?
Well, I guess we'll temporarily put this back on. I know I'm just going to take it right back off, but so today it's raining out and I want to get some things done on this machine. So first things first, I got a new filter for it. So let's take that one out, put the new one in so that we can put the cover on it. So I don't have a wing nut for it, but this will work just fine. Now we can put this cover back. There we go. So I have been staring at this thing and taking measurements and figuring out how I want to put this hood on here. The problem is the hood, even if it's touching the muffler, it's still a good 2 inches, almost 2.5 inches away from working here. So there's a couple different options I have to make this work, and well, there's more than a couple. I guess the first option would have been to return this hood and just build something, but the company that sold me this will not get back to me. They will not answer my phone calls or emails. So that was $600 and something for that, and I'd really love to return it and just build something, but they won't get back to me, so that's not an option. So the second option is to raise this piece up like 3 inches, 4 inches maybe, and then raise the hinges up. So there's a couple different ways that I could do that. I could either unbolt this piece here and raise that up, or I could weld something on the top of here to raise that up. The problem is I can raise the front up for the hinges, but then something needs to be done to bend around the side here, which I'm sure I could accomplish. If I took like 1/8 inch steel or something, I could bend it around a 4-inch pipe to make that radius. So that's an option. But another option is to modify this muffler to go down like 3 or 4 inches. So the way that I could do that, see, it's got this like 45-degree bend on it, and there's this bracket, so I could unbolt that because I only have about 2.5 inches of clearance right now. So to get more clearance to go down, I could take this bracket off, but I still have this hose that I have to contend with. So we'd have to move the exhaust in towards the motor like 1 inch or so, take that bracket off, and then I could take this bracket off or cut it off, and then I could cut these pipes so that it's cut where it's straight, and then I could re-weld it. So this whole muffler could kind of turn 45 degrees and then go in. And I'm thinking that that is probably the easiest thing to do right now. I could probably do that quicker than I could do anything else, and it would look the best as well. So even if it took a little bit longer, it would still look better than everything else, which I don't really care that much about it, but if I'm going to do all this work, I might as well make it look good, because this is all nice and painted here. So if I wanted to modify this, I'd have to grind it all down, weld it all up, grind it all down again, paint it. It's just a lot of stuff, which I don't mind doing the work, but it just seems like doing the work to this would be a little bit easier and look better, because then the hood would be all the way down where it's supposed to be instead of being extended up. So I think what happened is this muffler is like a generic muffler for here, and Wacker has their own muffler that they put on there, and I think it's a thinner muffler, plus it's got different angles on things. And I checked to buy one, it was like $700, so there's no way I'm paying that for a muffler, and I'm not waiting for it either. So I think we're gonna try to unbolt this and do what I said. Turn this 45 degrees, bring it in and down. That way it's just straight into it instead of this curve here. And then we'll have to rework a bracket to make it fit, which should be not too hard. But I think that's the plan. Oh, I guess that was just loose. So I guess this kind of helps me. It's cracked all the way up here. You probably can't see that. And it's cracked all the way up here. So these 2 point of attachments are not attached anymore. So I just need to make a couple of cuts right here and right here. And then this piece should come off. And then these I don't think I'm even going to use. But I think they're going to be in the way, so I think I need to cut those off as well. So now at this point, I think I just need to make a straight cut here, a straight cut here, eliminate this 45, and then weld them back together. But before I do that, I want to get it in place, tack weld it, make sure these flanges are nice and tight. I'll probably bolt them in so that they're not, because like 1 degree angle wrong and then you got a big leak on here. So I'll bolt them in place, prop this up, tack weld these pieces, and then I'll take everything out and weld it up. So that eliminates that 45. Now I can weld this straight back on. So when I was cutting those pieces off of that muffler, one was quite a bit longer than the other, so I thought I made a mistake, so I ended up cutting them both the same length. But now I realized why they were like that, because this side of the engine sticks in like 3/8 of an inch more than this one does. Actually, it's probably more than that. It's probably more than 3/8. It's probably like 5/8. They're not even. So when I put this muffler on here, it was like tweaked to the side. So now I got to trim this or this on here. Not perfect, but that's reasonable now. So now I just got to bolt these in and then tack weld it up. Somebody definitely welded these flanges here, and they got all this extra weld here, which makes it so you can't even put a nut on here. As a matter of fact, the flange nut definitely doesn't work, but even a regular nut doesn't work on that. So let me see if I can like gouge that out with the plasma cutter. And it's the same thing on this one too. This one I could probably get a nut without a flange on it, but it's easy enough to just gouge that out real quick. When the weld cools off, it'll shrink. So it's important to think about that while you're doing this, because the last thing you want is for it to shrink, and it's like hundreds of thousands of pounds that it's going to pull on those studs going into the engine. So it's important that you do it in a way where it's not going to pull too much. So these cuts to those cuts aren't exactly perfect, but what I think I'm going to do is tack weld them where they're actually touching, because there's gaps here and there. But if you weld inside the gap for the tack weld, it could move things a little bit. But if they're touching, it really can't move. So I'll make sure that I tack weld the spots that are actually touching, and then I'll have to slowly move around, not just weld right around the whole thing. I'll have to add more tack welds around when I take this off and weld it up, because otherwise things will tweak just a little bit. And the last thing you want is to pull those studs out of the engine, because I believe, yeah, that's aluminum. The head on here is aluminum, so you don't want to pull that stud out of there. But the first thing I need to do is grind all around this to make a nice clean surface to weld to. And I guess since this is so small, I'll probably use a Dremel for that. So that looks like it's fairly close to working. I don't know for sure. The heat shield is about 1.5 inches away, and this is plastic, of course. I thought it was fiberglass, but when I was looking up the part, everybody was saying it was fiberglass, but I got it and it's plastic. That doesn't help anything, but the heat shield's about 1.5 inches away, and then there's another 1/2 inch to the actual muffler. But without a lot of extra fabrication, I think that's just the best I can do. I think it'll be alright. Hopefully there's enough airflow in here. So now I gotta unbolt the whole muffler, weld it up good, and put it back in. So I just wanted something supporting this besides just these exhaust pipes coming out. I don't want to put a whole lot of stress on those flanges as well as the head, because they had like 2 different spots of mounts on the other muffler, so I figured we should have at least one here. So now everything is tight and I can just weld it in place, and then I think we're good here. So this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, that looks great. That's awesome. But was it worth the effort? The answer is no. But I don't know how long I'm going to keep this. And I know that for resale value, it'll definitely add and be able to sell it quicker and easier. So while I don't care about it, somebody in the future might. And it really serves no other purpose other than just making it look better. So I guess only time will tell whether this will melt or not, but I guess we'll test it out and check it every few minutes, make sure that it doesn't melt. But I can do a few things to help this out a little bit so it doesn't melt. I got this heat barrier stuff that I could probably put right there. It's not going to help with these right here because I don't want to block the airflow, so I don't want to put that stuff over this, but right here I could put it. So now to deal with this tailpipe section here, this is what they had before, and then they also had a big, large piece that went on here that didn't fit. Somehow this 1.5 inch piece was supposed to fit. So I bought another piece of flex pipe and I had to call around for like an hour to find it, and then Pat had to drive like an hour up the mountain to go get it. But he's going to be kind of mad because this pipe is just a little too small. This is 1 inch pipe, which is what I thought it was, but this is like 1.25 inch pipe. And I was able to make the old one work here. I just need to be able to weld around here, which is not going to be easy. I'm going to have to put a super thick weld there to take up that gap, but I think I can do it. I think it's better than using this one too, because I think that'll restrict the flow and it will make the muffler hotter by doing that. So I think it's a better idea to try to make this one work. And I know you're not supposed to do it, but I'm going to try to weld right here too to take up that gap. So I was actually able to weld that better than I thought I could. The gap was all on the top and I got all the gap, and it was pretty easy actually. The bottom is touching and I wasn't able to get that, but it's so close that this is a million times better than it was before. So there's just a few things left that I want to do to this machine before I call it good for now. Number one, I got a throttle cable, so let's see if we can try to put that in. And also the ignition, I got a new ignition with a new key, so let's put that in. So they don't sell you just the whole cable assembly. You got to buy the case and then the actual cable that goes inside. I need to push it down your way. Okay. I just need to...
Okay, there it is.
This is kind of a pain to do this. Need a wrench. I don't know, 10 millimeter and 8 millimeter, I think. I don't know. There we go. Even the 10 is like really loose. Okay. It looks like he might not be able to get out of there. You okay, Noah? Okay.
Here's these two things.
All right, what do you need?
Well, I'm trying to put this right there, but it's hard to do both at once. So I need you to put that on. Then it,
Well, you gotta put it on straight.
there's no poop right there. It's not. Ooh.
Hold it up straight.
Good. Right there.
You think the bunny's gonna be able to reach that?
Something. Stop.
Okay. Clear. All right, that works. The throttle doesn't stay though. The throttle doesn't stay up. Is it me or is that idle a lot lower than it did before?
Idle a lot lower.
No, it's supposed to swivel.
Well, I feel like that cable should be a lot tighter than that.
Well, it can be tighter, but the problem is regardless it's not staying. It won't, the throttle won't stay. It just like springs back down. It's almost like I gotta like tighten up this bolt right here or something, make it real tight. Maybe I could do that. Machine is like much quieter than before. This hood made a lot of difference. I would still wear headphones anyways, but it's almost to the point where you don't need to. but there's a big difference, especially sitting in the seat. So I'm going to call this machine good for now. It was probably good way before now, but we definitely did fix some things. I can't put this cover back on until I get the part that goes in here, and the place that I was getting all these parts from, they actually refunded me for that hose assembly. They call it a hose assembly, but it's really a hard line. But then today I got an email saying that it's being shipped out, so I don't know if I'm going to see that or not. Hopefully I do, because then that way I can put this cover back on. If not, it's not a big deal. It's not really hurting anything, but it'd be nice to have the right part in there. So there's a few things left that I need to do on this machine, but they're not really important right this second. Number one is getting the water to work. The linkage to it's all messed up, so I need to rebuild everything underneath of there, but it's not really important right now because everything's been pretty wet, so we don't really need any water for compaction, but I can see how that could help you out sometimes. Like in the middle of the summer, I did a job where it was really dusty, and this would have definitely helped, rather than having a hose running all day, because then you got to have like a guy standing there just running the hose. Also, I could fill these drums with water, but I'd have to put an antifreeze in it, so I'm not going to bother with that right now. But maybe in the springtime, I'll go ahead and just put some water in there. That way we have more compaction, because there'll be more weight in there. But the other thing that I need to do, for some reason, hooking up this original throttle here, the throttle doesn't want to stay where you want it. So in other words, like when you push it all the way up, when you're running it, it goes back down again. It doesn't want to stay up there. So I tightened up the connection almost to the point where I couldn't tighten it anymore. It's really tight, but it still doesn't want to stay up there. So for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm probably just going to take like a wood wedge and wedge it in there while I'm using it, so it'll stay at full throttle, because otherwise it's staying at like 2/3 of the throttle, maybe halfway, which is not ideal because the vibration really likes the full throttle. So it's kind of important that I do keep it full throttle. So having a wedge in there for right now is probably fine. I could probably figure out like a different spring situation for there, but I don't know how it's going to mess with the governor, so I'm just going to leave it alone and just do the wedge thing in there. I really don't even need to use this machine that much anymore. I kind of did most of the work around here. I'm going to still put some millings around this whole area, so I'll compact that and I'll put some more crusher on in some other spots, but for the most part I needed this for that slab, and that slab is almost ready to pour. So at this point, this machine is kind of on the back burner, but it did help out a lot. It sped things up pretty substantially, and I know I'll have lots of use for it in the future. But like I said, it's not going to replace a single drum roller that has tires on the back. I still want to get one of those. So if anybody knows one for sale, something around maybe like 5 or 6 tons, maybe a little bit more, that would be ideal. I'd love to find one of those machines, because that way I can compact dirt too. This one probably won't really do that. So that's it for this video, guys, and look for that video for the site work around here too, because that's coming out in a few days. It's already done. I just got to edit it and then upload it. So I will see you guys on that video.